Hello everyone. This video will be showing you how to disassemble a pneumatic sander. This is a pneumatic sander that was purchased from Harbor Freight Tools years ago and recently quit working on me. I have previously taken it apart and cleaned it, however it still doesn't work, so I'll be doing it again today to see if maybe I missed something. Let's begin. First thing you want to do is remove any sandpaper because you'll need to access the 4 Phillips screws on the pad side of the machine. Undo the screws carefully, making sure you get a proper fit on the head. The screws may be rusty and difficult to remove, especially if you do wet sanding. Once that's done, remove the plate and you'll find 6 more Phillips screws to undo. Remove the second plate along with the spacer and set it aside. I try to organize my workspace so that parts I remove are sequenced and organized by what parts belong with what. Next, you'll need a 5/32" hex tool. Place the tool into the bolt on the side and unscrew the Phillips screw on top. This can be tight, so it helps to have an electric drill. Place the bearing, screw, and cup washer aside and continue to remove the bolt with the hex tool. Be careful not to lose the split lock washer. Next, you'll want to remove the hub and reveal 4 more hex bolts on the underside of the sander. These should be tight but easy enough to remove. Note that there are 2 long bolts and 2 short bolts, and all come with split lock washers. Pry the 2 bodies apart, making sure you don't damage the gasket between them. You'll now be able to remove the internal components of the sander. If you're taking these out, take some time to thoroughly clean all the components to refurbish the sander. Be careful not to lose the O-ring. You'll need a pair of pliers to loosen the E-clip. Once it's unclamped, use a flathead screwdriver to pry it away from the bolt. Under the E-clip is a wave washer. For this part you can use a flathead screwdrivers or something similar to pry off the top plate and reveal the rotor body and blades. Note how the blades sit in the body as they may fall out. Also notice a tiny metal part called a key for the rotor shaft that will have to be put back into position when putting everything back together again. This is a good spot to begin cleaning all your parts. There may be sticky black grime on there that should be wiped off well so that your moving parts can move freely. Now we begin to assemble the rotor. Make sure to place the blades with the curved sides facing in and the straight edge on the outside. The hole in the rotor body should be facing you as you slide it onto the shaft. The key should be placed while sliding the body on. Not sure if gun oil is good for the machine or not, but that's all I had at the time, and I figure any oil is better than none. Put the housing on the rotor body and note the orientation of the housing so that it isn't upside down. It will only go in one way based on the notch on the body of the sander and the hex screw on the rotor housing. Place the top plate back on and gently tap it in place with a hammer. Place the wave washer and E-clip back on. I wanted to remove the plastic screw off of the throttle valve to see if there was any buildup that needed to be removed. Apart from a little rust, it looked okay. The speed regulator knob also has an E-clip to remove. Once the E-clip is off, you can pull the speed regulator knob out and wipe it off as well. It's got 4 O-rings to keep the air from escaping. If the inlet valve has grime in it, you can wrap a paper towel around a thin screwdriver to clean it out. Put the speed regulator knob back in and close it up with the E-clamp, trying not to lose it in the process. Back to the rotor housing. Don't forget to place the O-ring back on and line up the hex screw with the notch. The hex screw should be on top as you slide the rotor shaft in. Here I forgot to put the O-ring back on the valve screw, but that's an easy fix. Line up the gasket with the bolt holes and put the 2 bodies back together. The orientation of the bottom body should not matter as far as lining up the holes goes. Time to secure the bodies together with 4 hex bolts. The longer will go on the side where the hose attaches and the shorter ones on the other end. Also, don't forget the split washers. Next, you'll want to spin the shaft so that the thread will line up with the hole in the side of the square body. Place the hub on the shaft, being careful to line up the bolt hole and not spin the shaft. It could take some tinkering to get the bolt in just right, And once that's in, tighten it and leave the hex tool in the hole so that you can tighten the shaft screw on the hub later. At this point, it dawned on me that the bearing is not turning well at all. There is a lot of buildup in there, and I used WD-40 to get it loosened up. This is possibly the reason that the sander quit working. I'll keep my fingers crossed. It loosened up really well after a couple of minutes. Put the bearing on the shaft and screw it on along with the cup washer. Remember to use the hex tool to keep the shaft from spinning. Next, you'll put the hard plate on the bearing plate and secure it with 6 Phillips screws. Finally, you'll line up the soft plate and secure it with 4 Phillips screws. Note that you may have to move the threads around on these screws. They are housed in 4 rubber cylinders that you will see between the hard plate and the square housing. That's it. Hope this was beneficial for you and you'll give me a thumbs up for the video. I enjoyed putting this together and will add more videos like this one. Also feel free to comment me tips and suggestions on future videos. God bless.